Welcome to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, here to guide you down the rabbit hole into the world of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. Good morning, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Integration Station. I am Naturally Ashley, your host, here with a special guest, Jesse Simpson. Now, some of you may have met him already from future, well, I hope there's future collaborations, but I mean from past collaborations. And for a lot of you, this is going to be your first experience, but I'm really excited to introduce him to you. He's a former U.S. Marine and firefighter turned leadership coach. He's held retreats in different parts of the world, which we'll get into on today's show. He's a facilitator and somatic breathwork practitioner. He's a husband and soon-to-be father on a mission to create safe spaces for health, healing, and heart-centered living. So we will share your best ways to get in touch with Jesse at the end of this show. But I also want you guys to check the link if you're interested in booking a breathwork session with him too. Right, without further ado, I'll introduce him to you.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, with a special guest here, Jesse Simpson, and he's going to share a little bit about the transition that he's going in, but some of you may know him from Action Oriented because he's been on the show before. I always like having him on because there's every time we check in with each other, like it seems we're on these parallel paths all the time. Like we're just, talking about current events, talking about psychedelics, even in, when you first started, I remember you were in Colombia doing retreats with psychedelics. And so that's such a place so close to my heart. And even, being a veteran like you are, it's another place where we connect. I didn't serve like you. I serve in other ways, but I do have, my heart in that space. And so there's just been so many synchronicities that brought us together. And I'm happy to have you on again, introduce you to a bigger crowd now that we got the radio show and CBG TV backing us up now, which is cool. So I'll just pass it over to you, Jesse, and you can introduce yourself, share a bit about your journey, and I'm just going to sit back and observe now.
It sounds great, Ashley. Yeah, it's really great to be back. Great to see your smiling face, and really excited for your growth and all the things you're doing, because you are serving in a big way, and it's great to see from afar. So I'm happy to be back on. We were just chatting before we hit record. I'm going through a big transition right now in my life where I'm trying to figure out, I'm just going back to the basics. Like, I'm a man, I'm soon to be a father, I'm a husband. I have had a couple of businesses. Action Oriented was all around coaching and training and helping people navigate loss, trauma, and major life transitions. I was hosting retreats in Colombia through Action Adventures, and that was such an amazing gift. It was an incredible experience to bring people down from all around the world into the heart of Colombia and have these just transformational experiences. And now I'm shifting gears. But a bit more about my background, you hit on a little bit. So my background before that stuff was military and fire service. I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran. I served on 3 deployments, served in Afghanistan. That was my childhood dream, to be a Marine and a firefighter. And after separating from the fire service, I struggled a bit to navigate the transition. I was fresh out of combat in October, and then 3 months later, January, I was back in the streets in Des Moines, Iowa, going to community college, and it was really interesting to experience the shift in dynamics. But also, like, looking back, it's interesting. But going through it, I had no idea what was happening. I had no connection to my body or anything other than just like the programs that were running in my mind. So I struggled a bit to transition, and what actually helped me was going on a volunteer trip to Lima, Peru a couple of years later, where I worked at this orphanage, and I worked with these kids who had nothing but sticks and balls and dirt in Villa El Salvador, one of the poorest districts outside Lima, Peru. And going down there, a Marine combat veteran, I thought I was going to help I thought I was going to help these kids. But it was clear after a couple of weeks with these boys and girls who had seemingly nothing from the outside, but the biggest smiles I'd ever seen. They shifted me, they helped me. And they kind of put me on this path to service and finding something a bit more real and authentic. But either way, I continued down the path of my childhood dream, which was to be a firefighter. I became a firefighter in Mesa, Arizona. I did that, and I'll skip over. It kind of gets chunky in here, but there's a lot of things that come up around the fire service. But eventually, I was struggling with a lot of different things. I was really fed up with this sort of system. I felt like I was a cog in a wheel. I was sick of waiting, looking forward to retirement, which is sort of like the status quo. Just sit down, shut up, and collect your pension in 25 years. And that just didn't really sit right with me. Amongst some other things coming up in my personal life, the trauma that I experienced in the Marines and as a child that I hadn't really dealt with, it really all kind of ended up being this big bundle of stuff that had me driving to create a nonprofit, do all these different things. Essentially, I was staying super busy. I was burning myself out. It all culminated in me being recognized as the Arizona State Firefighter of the Year in 2017. But about a month after that, I just completely broke down, and I was at one point the Firefighter of the Year smoking weed at work because I couldn't sleep. I was having suicidal thoughts. And then it's crazy coming up now because about 5 years ago on New Year's Eve, I decided that I was going to move to Costa Rica. And it was kind of a conversation I was having around the time with my now wife about getting out of here. I always had that pull back to Latin America, South America after my time in Peru. And when I was struggling and my childhood dream job, I had reached the sort of pinnacle of the profession. And I found myself deeply broken, totally lost, and just really confused about life. And I said, you know what, it's time to take action. It's time to go out there and see what this world's about. So I followed my heart down to Costa Rica, spent some time traveling throughout Central and South America, ended up in Peru, ended up in Colombia, and traveled all over for a while. And why I'm sharing that now is because there's this idea of the hero's journey, and you go through this stuff in life, and you get this call to adventure, and you go out and you go through these trials, and then you come back. And what's interesting for me, the time period of my life is where I'm at now is I'm back. I like a month ago, my wife and I were gone for 4.5 years away from Arizona, and we were really adamant we weren't going to come back. And I was very serious. I didn't want to deal with who I was, I think, back in Arizona in that time. So we lived in Florida for a while. We lived in Tennessee. I was hosting retreats in Colombia for a while. And now it just, something about the way the world has worked recently is it's time to come back here, and it's time to face what you have been running from and face yourself. So I'm just sort of this guy out here trying to figure out my place in the world. I've done a lot of different things, and I've lived a lot of life experiences. Travel, psychedelics, service have all been major like pillars of my life. And now what it feels like for me is I'm coming back, and I'm now living back in Arizona where I left from. I'm given an opportunity to deal with whatever I need to deal with so I can become who I was born to be. So I'm trying to figure out what that looks like right now. And I'm really excited about that as I step into this next stage of my life. So thanks for having me here. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing all that. I'm sure that so many people can resonate to that part of the journey. I know me for sure. Sometimes listening to you talk, it sounds like it's crazy. I remember living in BC and hearing that voice of, I was 4 years or so away from home, hadn't seen family or anything. Life was good. I was having fun, but it was also a bit of a party, a bit of a trip. And I knew that something wasn't quite right. And then the voice came through the ocean that was just, it's time to go home. And I sold all my stuff like in that moment. Within 2 weeks, I was on a plane back and I had nothing, but I got myself right, and I took a year to myself to integrate all that experience and to slowly reintroduce myself to people and heal those wounds in that time. It reminds me of what Ram Dass said about if you think you're spiritually enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And it sounds like, you're a bit at that point now too, reconnecting with your wife's family, your family, and these parts of yourself, that are still there. And, they might have been forgotten, but now it's the time to remember and to do that real healing work now that you are a different person with new experiences. And congratulations on becoming a dad.
Thank you. Yes.
That's the most psychedelic trip there is.
Yeah, for sure. We were about 3 months out from touchdown. So having a little girl, and really excited about that. And yeah, I feel ready, I think. And also, I don't know what to expect, but I just trust that we're going to have everything we need when we need it, and just continue to having that was something that came up for me big time. And I continue to follow that. Was when I decided to leave, I quit my childhood dream job. I sold all my stuff, my car, pretty much all I owned. All I had was 2 backpacks. Same with my wife. And we made the decision, not knowing how we were going to do it. We went on faith. And each time we took a step, the next step would always appear. So I've been kind of following this pathway of faith that everything I need is going to be right there. So I trust that's going to be the same experience with when I bring my daughter in. And really excited about this. A lot to learn. It's the next level, and I'm excited for this next stage.
Yeah. It's almost like, even if you think about military service or anything, it's like you do all this training and basic to prepare you for what it's like when you're in field, again, still practicing. But parenting is so much the same. You have like this preparation period, and you get to see the similarities in other areas of your life where, this event and this event, it's all prepared you for this now coming event. And, I'm, how many years? Finn's almost 70, 6.5 now. And, I'm still learning, but you're right. Everything's there as you need it. And faith is definitely an asset, because there are the highs and lows. And if you're going at it with faith, you can ride the wave up and down, and make it a little bit fun and keep your head in the game. But it's, sometimes when the challenges are big, some people, they fall down. And I've been one of those people before, but, I know what's next. I know that there is going to be another high, so I can wait it out. When I feel the dark, I go as dark as it can be. I really feel it, and then I go back up and I feel the highs as well. So yeah, you're in for it. It is a roller coaster, but it's so rewarding too. And yeah, with the little girl, yeah, it's that's going to be fun. I've got some girls in my life, but they're not my own. I got a son, which came with its own things. I think I had to learn the opposite. And then a lot of my friends have girls, so yeah, I have a lot of them in my life as well. Do you have other kids in your life that to have a little bit of experience, or?
I grew up as my mom owned a daycare, a childcare, not an in-home, but like a big building with like 70 or 100 kids or whatever it was. So I grew up kind of around kids, and never like babies. Like there's no fun in like hanging out with babies, at least when I was that age. But I grew up around kids, and then when I got out of the Marines, like I said, I was struggling a bit. I lost my way, but what really helped me was volunteering in Lima, Peru, and then that kind of catapulted me to continue to volunteer. So I love being around kids. They're a lot of fun. Although I've got away from mentoring while I was traveling and stuff like that, there's something about that's really present for me, and I'm excited to reactivate that play. I'm really missing that right now for myself, really. And also part of the reason we moved back was just so my wife can be around her family. But her best friend just had a baby. Her sister-in-law just had a baby. So there's babies around. And it's kind of like, it's our turn now. We're meant to be back here and have it. So we'll have support, we'll have community. Our girls can have friends right from a young age. So something I'm really looking forward to that for her, of just having kids, to grow up with for a long time. It's not something I've ever experienced. I grew up in a way that was like, well, I got kicked out of my house my freshman year in high school, essentially never went back. I joined the Marines, moved to Arizona, and just traveled around. So I've never really been able to build those deep relationships with people. And I'm really excited for my daughter now to have that opportunity as we're restarting our life here in Arizona.
Yeah, that sounds so great. And I get it 100%. Sometimes it's our job to do. Sometimes I think that's even why we have those experiences that are so different, is so that we can really appreciate it and put the care and effort into creating those, levels and support systems. And yeah, really important. And that's going to be so exciting. I love what you said too about play, because I've been really getting into Dark Night of the Soul again, and not like me personally, but the book and the work and all that. I just, it's really been calling to me this, I'll be honest with you, it's like a bit occulty, but one of the goddesses, the triple moon goddess, Hecate, she has been calling me in like dream work and like, so I went back and I'm like doing all this research, and in that book, it also brings up a lot of religious things, because originally it was a poem by John the Baptist when he was going through his dark night. And one of the big things that comes out is about, it's a bit of a paradox, but Jesus apparently said something about to be like me, you have to be a child. So it's like while you're growing older, you have to be more childish. It's kind of the complete opposite of what culture's saying. And I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but essentially tapping into that childness is so important. And me, myself, too, I moved out at 14 years old. I took care of a lot in my house before then. I didn't have much of a childhood, not the same as my brother did or anything. And so for me to play and just take that time, it's very, very difficult for me. But I feel blessed every single time I do it. I'm like, oh, this is what I've been missing my whole life. It's like, and then I'm just so grateful for him to, even though there's resistance for me, as soon as I do it and I surrender to his will, it's always very rewarding. And I'm growing with him. Not, I think a lot of what culture says is that we're raising kids, but kids are people now, and they have so many lessons for us. There's so much to learn from them, even in the way that they handle their emotions, everything. It's like, us as adults, we'll lock away those emotions as long as we can, not to face them. Kids are like, they feel it, they free it, they're good, and then they're laughing 2 seconds later, So, yeah. You're in for a while.
Yeah, I've heard the idea. Yeah, I feel that. I've heard the idea, that the kids are the closest to source. They're closest to just pure, like babies. They're the closest to the most purest form of spirit that we have. They're just totally authentic, totally themselves. And then they get conditioned to think and do different things, and they become adults, and there's trauma along the way. But I love the opportunity to just hold that pure little girl here in my arms and just be here to protect her and to support her and provide for her and show her a way to live as love, and have her be a reminder for me that that's my purpose here. And so I'm excited for that. And the play, my niece, so you asked me that, I do have a niece. I don't see her very often, but she's always loved hanging out with her. She's 5 or 6 now. She'll I'm the fun uncle, and she'll paint my nails, and she tries to put lipstick on me, and I'm like, look, this is getting too weird. This is like not going to happen right now, but you can paint my toenails if you want. So yeah, I'm excited for that too, and do little tea parties and stuff. So yeah.
Oh man. So what else is going on in your life, Jesse?
Yeah, so, well, what else is going on in my life? So I just made this cross-country move from Tennessee back to Arizona. I'm settling in. One thing that's actually really exciting, I didn't mention, is I've been looking for ways I've been trying to figure out what, people are creative. I want to find my own creative expression. Music, I got kicked out of band in 5th grade. It probably traumatized me back then, so I never got back into it. Although I have some draw to learn to play different instruments. I play the trumpet. and I talk too much. So they booted me out of class one day, never went back. But I love to dance and move my body, but I'm just trying to figure out what my creative expression is. And one thing that came to me while I was driving was I create space. And then I was going through about a month ago through a Somatic Breathwork Practitioner course. So that's one thing that's really exciting for me now, is I'm able to create space for this sort of transformational experiences, this sort of healing to come through breath. And so that's something that's been really exciting for me, and I'm looking to build that out. And the main thing for me, other than my wife being here, or wife's family being here and the baby coming, other than just kind of going back to kind of step in, like I moved up to Tennessee from Florida with the intention to build out a retreat center and have my own retreat center, because I didn't want to have to deal with COVID-related travel restrictions or whatever the next pandemic's going to be called. And I wanted to go up there and just build out a farm and build out a community and just have this amazing space where I can host people and we can do this deep work and we can come together as what I call humans in harmony. And then I realized that I can have an amazing space up in Tennessee, but if all the people that I know really are in Arizona, there's no freaking point for me to have a beautiful space if no one's going to be able to connect with it. So that's part of why I'm back here, is to start to create these spaces of transformational connection, of experiences where people come together. And this vision of humans in harmony has been sitting with me the last couple of years. So that's something I'm building out now. It's really just essentially what it looks like is a holistic wellness and music festival, with people coming together to tackle all things health, healing, and heart-centered living. Health is for our future. It's the food we eat. It's the water we drink. It's the exercises we do. Healing's from our past. It's the clearing out of trauma and limitations, whether it's through breath or psychedelics. And heart-centered living is the present moment. It's when we're here connected to my soon-to-be baby girl or our friends in our community. So I'm really shifting into focusing all of my energy on building out humans in harmony and building out this festival. And eventually what that looks like is building out a retreat center here in Northern Arizona, building out a retreat center, a homestead essentially. It's a homestead, but a community-based homestead where we work together, we provide everything we need, we work together in these ways, and we build out community. And I'm really excited about that. It's in the infancy of its development, but I feel like that's why I'm here, is to bring this sort of vision to the ground and just build it for my family and whoever else would want to be a part of that. So I think that's the main thing that's going up for me. The baby, the move, and humans in harmony is on my mind. And as part of that, it's like trying to unplug from the matrix. Just trying to figure out what that means and like try to get my affairs in order so I can make this really sustainable and just totally be free, because I think that's why we're here, is to be free.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know where it changed. You think that we would just naturally be born free, like Kid Rock sings about, but now his song's changed to how do we become more free? And it is something definitely to figure out. It's something that's that I've been working through as well. How do I stay plugged in and meet the people that are going to be clients or that are crying like for help? How do I meet them, but also stay off of social media? It's sometimes the media makes their mind up for me, but I go back because that's where the people are. And so I get the struggle. It's real, and it's real in all areas. It's real when I watch my son watching YouTube, and the stuff on there is just crazy. They're picking what they want to watch. It's YouTube telling them what to watch, and a lot of it's very toxic. There's a lot of people still working the 9-to-5 in the system, that want to leave the rat race. They're starting to wake up and see that this is just a different kind of slavery, and yet actually being able to take action, like you say, it comes with a lot of fear. Fear about how am I going to live, how am I going to survive. And I think that this is where that dark night really comes in. You do have to feel that fear, but like the kids, you feel it, you free it, you do the thing anyway. Like I was watching, my son just got crazy carpet, so he
he was scared. It was a bit icy. I'm like, okay, well, we'll go on the smaller hill first. As soon as he did it, no matter how scared he was, as soon as he did it, he's screaming and yelling in pure joy. And he did it like, I don't even know how many times, uncountable amounts after that, and he's still asking to go back. So, if you just have that faith and you do the thing anyway, there is a reward, but it takes steps, little bits. What I like to do personally, and this works well with your pillars, is to think like, where is it that you really want to be? What's that big vision that's there? And then you have to be really real with yourself about where are you now. Don't lie to yourself about anything. Don't let your ego protect you. Like, get it all out of the way. And then you can build pillars back up. So, and those are your action steps. Anything that's on that bridge, that's like the surface layer fears, the garbage, the debris. But if you can focus on those pillars and clean the rest of that bridge up, make it nice and walkable, and maybe even put some flowers on there if you want, you'll get to where it is that you really want to be. It's still, doing that bottom deep work, building up those pillars. It's having that vision, knowing where you're going, but it's all doable, just, little steps at a time, and knowing what those priorities are. What do you still need? It was okay that Twitter went or that LinkedIn went, but when Instagram goes, there's a part of me that's like, is that like a part of me that's like my lifeline right now for connecting with these people? It's less and less now, but at the we just got our account back now. That's why I'm bringing this up. But it's just one example of the million ways where no matter how much we want to exit the matrix, it's really there. I think the most important part is just seeing it and doing your best to get sustainable in your own life. I love what you're saying about, having your homestead being a place where other people can come. I think that that's a big part of it, where you're sustainable on your own land, but communities just naturally coming to you for that kind of, that space that you'll be providing, that space that you've been training in creating, that space that you're called to create. I think it's going to be a really powerful thing, and I'm super excited for you, and I'll be coming to visit.
You better, for sure. Come down we can escape. You can be a snowbird and come down in the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. I get scared of driving in this stuff sometimes. I'm still a new driver. So, a few years now, but not enough winter experience, and the roads get bad in the places that I like to go. Because I like going deep in the bush where, you have just tiny little trucks plowing the stuff, and sometimes they don't even want to go out. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm not sure exactly where to go on here, Jesse. Like, you have such a unique path, and I think if we can just dive into that a little bit first, and then we can come back to where it is that you want to go, because we do have a commercial coming up here. But when you were called to work with psychedelics, I'm curious if you would feel comfortable opening up about that and just letting any of our listeners hear what the real inspiration was for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so other than some recreational mushrooms and LSD in my party days, I didn't really have much of a connection to psychedelics, but when I was going through my process of firefighter of the year, and then smoking weed at work, and then suicidal thoughts and these sort of things, I made the decision that I'm going to go. And then just like I said, this chain of events happened. A lot of it was outside of my control. Things lined up. And one of the things that come into my awareness around that time was probably this was 2018. So a couple years before, 2014 or something like that, 2016 maybe, I heard on a Joe Rogan podcast about ayahuasca, and I don't even know if that's where I heard it, but I feel like that's where a lot of people hear it. But either way, it just seemed right they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And for me, the teacher appeared in the form of ayahuasca retreat. So I was able to, and I seemed like it was like a perfect way to transition. I didn't know, but it made sense in my mind that whatever ayahuasca is, it would be great to use it as a stepping stone into this new life that I was stepping into, leaving everything, literally everything behind, going to this threshold and popping on the other side to go on this adventure, this travel that I didn't know where I was going to go after Costa Rica. So yeah, in August of 2018, a couple months after I left, I went to my first ayahuasca retreat. It was an unbelievable experience. I'm happy to share as much about it that sometimes it can kind of get lost in the complexities of it. But essentially what it did was just really, for the first time in my life, opened me up, and I felt what I would consider just this unbelievable unconditional love. And I'm a hard-headed, Marine firefighter guy, and that's not something that I had ever experienced before. And it just shifted something inside of me, and the journey was beautiful, but just this feeling of unconditional love. And the lesson for me on the first time was this desire, this need, this lesson that I need to be present and I need to be grateful. And I just really felt connected to that, and had another amazing experience where it really showed me that I need to actually the first lesson, the beautiful, it was all about love and compassion. It just opened my mind to that. The next journey was actually about presence and gratitude, because it showed me all of the areas of my life, like almost like a grainy video, like a grainy home video. It was like the whole night, and it was just showing me all the times I was not present for the people that I loved, and the people that were there for me, and all the times that I was doing things, other people even, but I wasn't even there. I was in my mind, or I was thinking about other stuff, and I wasn't really present, or I was stoned, or whatever it was. So it just really opened me up, and it put me on this journey to connect with that presence and gratitude, that love and compassion. And also after that, it was months before I had any other experience with psychedelics. So that was my first real experience with ayahuasca. And I'm happy to share a bit more about the retreats and that kind of stuff. Or
yeah, let's just do a quick commercial break. Let our sponsors share what they want to share, and then we can come back and dive into that for sure. I'm looking forward to it, Jesse. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to savethebcbc at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Growing your own cannabis is easier than you think. Whether you're growing for recreational or medical purposes, BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. From the standard 4-plant recreational systems to the latest cutting-edge hydroponic equipment, BMA can customize your package and do it at discount prices. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and ask us for a free estimate. Or call 613-967-9888 and we will give you an estimate over the phone. The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
So
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to welcome everyone back as well as you, Jesse. I know you're excited. I'm excited too. Let's just get into it.
Let's do it. Go. So yeah, I mean, what I left off was the first time with ayahuasca, and that just really opened my heart and really brought simple but profound lessons to me. And of course, just being a man and being hard-headed, I didn't always pay attention to that. There's for me, there was this sort of, it was really present for a while, and then I was traveling and doing all these different things, so it was hard to really integrate. But then there'd be flickers of it. I see a beautiful sunset and remember to be present, which really wasn't in my vocabulary up until that point. So it was really beautiful start to the journey of travel. I spent 4 months in Costa Rica. We spent 2.5 in Peru. We spent 2 months in Colombia. And it wasn't until Colombia, so it would have been 6 or 8 months later, that I got connected with DMT for the first time. I just kind of felt the call to that. I met some people, and that was that. But Colombia is a really beautiful place, and it's a start that it's a place that really just each country we went to, my wife and I got different lessons for ourselves, and then as a relationship, we worked through a lot of different things. But there's something about we had a beautiful journey through Peru. We hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. We stayed in the mountains, in the Andes Mountains for a month in the Sacred Valley, working at this hostel essentially. We did all these cool things, but then we went to Colombia, and there was a lot of fear that came up for my wife specifically. For me, I don't really think like that. I don't live in that sort of fear mentality. I mean, I'm sure I do, but not in an outward sense. But my wife was visibly nervous and anxious when we first got there. And it's because all of this stuff she's hearing from her parents who watch the news too much, and her friends who, even today when I ask people about Colombia, oh, aren't you worried about getting kidnapped? And it's yeah, sure. I mean, no, but either way, that was the programming that was going on in her mind. And Colombia has this incredibly beautiful jungles, beaches, waterfalls, mountains. It's an incredibly beautiful countryside. But we flew into Medellin, which was at one point the most dangerous city in the world. And over a 20-year period, moving past the Pablo Escobar days, it transformed into the most innovative city in the world. And we found that on our first walking tour, actually, 5 people came up to us and said, "Welcome to Colombia. My home is your home. Thank you for coming." And just one after another, one guy literally ran across the street with his hands up high. He gave me a big high five. He said, "Welcome to Colombia. My home is your home. Thank you for coming." And it was just day after day. We lived there for 2 months. Every time we went out, there was an experience like that. And it really just having kind of immersed ourselves in the country and the culture a bit more. We really got a feel for what was going on there, what the people are actually like, as opposed to what CNN or whatever news channel wants you to think they're like. And it's so completely different. But I share that because it really just, there was one day where my wife and I were going down these cable cars. That's part of what helped make Medellin the most innovative city in the world, because they built this railway system, these cable cars that go up into the mountains and the barrios, and that allows people from up there to come down to the city center and get work. Well, we were going to a park one day, and it was on the top of the mountain. So we were riding the cable cars back down and had this really beautiful moment where it was just her and I. The sun was shining in on her face. We were both just kind of looking out our own windows, and it's really quiet. And I just looked over at her and I was like, "Babe, what are you thinking about?" And she looked at me and she goes, "I'm just not going to fear death anymore." And I just was like, wow. And we kind of just moved past that. We kind of joked about it, wow, that's this beautiful, such a gift. But really what I'm getting at is like, it just was the moment that I saw in her that being here immersed in this culture, there was this shift, this heart opening, this getting out of the fear, the programming, and a connection to what's actually happening here in the moment. That's what heart center living is. But it was this moment for her that really shifted in me, and it was that moment that I decided I wanted to marry her, and we ended up getting engaged from the Eiffel Tower a couple months later in Paris, and continued our travels. But I share this about Colombia because it really had a deep impact on me. It was so beautiful. The countryside is incredibly beautiful. Like I shared, the people are so warm and welcoming, and I just had this idea that I wanted to start this way of connecting to more authentic travel. Like when I thought of people traveling in the United States, and this isn't everybody, I think it's opened up a lot more, but general stereotypical American travel is like go to a freaking Marriott on a beach in Mexico and just drink like unlimited alcohol, become totally unconscious, eat a bunch of shit food, and then like, I don't know, whatever you do, there you come back and just living this unconscious life, not really connecting with the richness of the land that you're going to visit, the history, the people, like going off the grid a little bit and meeting like the locals. Like it's such a amazing experience, and why I feel so passionate about traveling. And yeah, that's sort of the travel journey. We end up coming back. But I'm sharing that now because I had this call when I was coming back after 10 months away. I was going to grad school online. I had a lot of going through. My life has just been one big transition, it seems. But I was going through this big transition after being gone for so long. I was coming back, what I thought was a changed man, and I was met with this. Really, we came back. My older brother had terminal cancer, and I just knew he was getting sick, and it was time to come back. So I came back, and my older brother passed, and just kind of transitioning, didn't know where we were going to stay, didn't know where we were going to live. But I connected with a friend from Colombia, and he connected me with another guy from Colombia. And this sort of chain of events happened. I ended up going down in December of 2020 to visit my new friend, named Zavilo, in Colombia. And we just really hit it off. And he took me to a yahe ceremony there. He connected me with Cambo for the first time. Well, not the first time. I guess I did it the first time in a long time. And I also sat with Bufo. And it was interesting because the ayahuasca experience, they call it yahe in Colombia, was what's a lot different than other times I've had it. It was a big public ceremony. There were like 50 people there. And if you've done ayahuasca or you know much about it, a lot of times you're going to vomit, and that's okay. It's good to clear that stuff out. But for me, the entire experience was just laying there. And every time I heard somebody vomit, which was often since there were so many people, I was thinking that I would be next. So essentially what I was projecting is like, I'm always looking to the next thing. And I never vomited. I never had any really psychedelic experience. It was just me sitting with myself the whole time, being anxious about how I'm going to vomit. And it was really interesting. Not the most beautiful, but simple experience. And it just reminded me of that first time, and just be present instead of thinking it too far ahead about the things that could go wrong or what could be coming next. But either way, I had that experience. I did Cambo, and then I did Bufo. Bufo is 5-MeO-DMT. It's the most powerful naturally occurring psychedelic in the world, from the Bufo alvaris toad, the desert toad from the Sonoran Desert. And I heard about it, but I wanted to experience it myself. And the only way to describe what I experienced was this feeling of perpetual bliss. I inhaled this medicine, and not long after, a few seconds later, I went through this portal, this like mandala-like experience with really bright colors, and then I popped out, and I was what I would call heaven. I was in what I would call heaven, and it was this profound experience where it was just so light, and this feeling of perpetual bliss was pervading every part of me. I was not my body; it wasn't there. I even laughed while I was up there about, well, if I don't have hands, what do I do if I have to pee? And I'd had this conversation with myself, and I was just laughing and playful, and then I came back, and it was just unbelievable to come back into my body at that moment and just kind of wake up. The music's playing, and I'm looking out to the Colombian sky, and I'm like, wow, that was something. And then I was talking to the shaman, the facilitator that helped me with that experience. And I was like, how can I help? Like, how can I help you? Like, what can I do? Like, this is needed right now. And she's like, well, if you want to keep this going, you could do Kundalini yoga or go to like a 10-day Vipassana retreat or meditate. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but like, what about other people? Like, how can I bring? She's like, well, you can just bring people down. And in that moment, I realized, after my experience in Colombia the year before, like how I wanted to have this way of connecting with people with an authentic way of travel and immersing in the culture. And my own passion for travel and adventure and these sort of things. And now my transformative experience with psychedelic, I felt like I didn't know it then, but I've been having in different ways, like what I would call a spiritual awakening. And it really just opened me up. And I, in that moment, decided that trip with my buddy Avilo that I'm going to start hosting these retreats in Colombia and bringing people down for his adventure travel and sacred medicine in the heart of Colombia so they can experience a real and authentic way to travel and explore this country that's so beautiful and so misunderstood, and also connect with the rich traditions of medicine here in Colombia and the people and the shamans that are there, and just have an amazing time. So that was essentially the launching pad for action adventures. We ended up hosting the retreats, a couple of retreats down there in Colombia that year, and that was like my main work with psychedelics. And we had people there from every continent of the country besides in the world, but other than Antarctica, like multiple different languages, multiple different backgrounds, different experiences with psychedelics. It was such a beautiful gift to bring people there into that experience, and into Colombia, and offer that as a way to help other people to heal, to wake up, to transform.
Yeah, thank you. You hit on so many really important things there, and I apologize for my dog. She's like, I want in on this too. But
she agrees.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I resonate with everything that you say. I truly believe that that's how travel is supposed to be. Travel is not hiding away in another, room, essentially, or at a bar, another bar. Those are the things that are the same no matter where you go. The whole point of travel is to immerse yourself in a new culture and break that stigma, and to release yourself from that matrix or that vision or whatever fear mongering goes on in the television and radio and Hollywood. I did personally I had a bad experience in Colombia because I had my cell phone robbed. But as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get her out of here. I'm sorry. Come on, Lena. Go on. Come on. Oh, she just loves me so much. Yeah, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, well, I dealt with it. Now that just means that I don't have to take, or that I'm not going to be taking pictures or anything like that. But guess what? Every picture that I ever wanted or could ever take was still gifted to me by other people who I met along the way that are just tagging me in pictures. It was like all still there. I didn't have to worry about any roaming fees or anything like that. It was a blessing in disguise. And I was able to face that fear. Like, it literally got out of my system the very first day that I was there. After that, everything went so smoothly, including other countries that I visited. And the cultures are all different everywhere in South America, I think, even though there are some similarities, as you were saying, that, no matter how broke some families are, oftentimes they're the happiest. They're finding joy in the present moment, things we forget about, things that, we're even, I would say, programmed very much so not to be present in the moment. Because if we were present, then what?
Absolutely.
Then, we would love a little bit more. We would be a little bit more happy, and they wouldn't be able to push so many drugs.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I also like how you described your experience with the medicine, how you were able to take action. You're like, this was a great experience. Now, how can I help? how did you find it when you got back and you started integrating and you started asking people to go down with you? How did all of that come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, got back. That trip was in December 2020, and then the first retreat was held in March. And I think I channeled that anxious energy that I had, like, are people going to show up? Like, what am I going to do? Into action. And I just took one step, and the next step appeared, and I did my best. And I partnered up with people that could help. Avilo lives in Colombia. He has deep connection with all the shamans that we work with, and just like talked ideas back and forth, and like decided on a date and did it. And that was pretty much it. I mean, we had, I think, 8 or 9 people at the first retreat, and it was small, and it was beautiful. It was perfect. I learned a lot, and it was just, that's what it was. Like, the people who were meant to be there were there. Like, it was just channeling the energy into action and moving forward, and just trusting, it's gonna work itself out. Like, it was funny. Everything just showed up when I needed it to show up. It was from I've never written a letter or a waiver form for doing this sort of stuff in Colombia, but I met someone who had, and we had just copied a lot of his, and just all these things just made it really easy and effortless relatively. So I think just getting out of my own way was allowing it to happen was the most important thing. And then we hosted another one in September later that year, and really then it's about promoting and marketing and getting out there. A lot of like stuff for me comes up around that. I still am probably still working through that stuff around like sharing. I'll share my experience. I love to talk and have like personal conversations, but getting it out there on social media was it's hard. You got to build trust with people and stuff like that. So I just reached out to my connections, and people knew people. And when the student is ready, the teacher appeared in this sort of way. I always sort of joked around that time was like, my favorite thing to do was be manifested, because people would be craving these experiences, these transformational experiences. I think a lot of us are right now, but specifically around like going to Colombia or going to an ayahuasca retreat and these sort of things. And I was like, well, I know we got one coming up. And so that happened, and just put myself out there in situations of being around the right people and just sharing like what I'm doing. I think people want to know what you're up to, and it's inspiring to them sometimes. And just sharing that is something that is a way for me also to connect and just see what happens, which is why really while I'm no longer hosting the retreats, just because of COVID and just some other stuff that's going on in the move. And, it doesn't make sense right now to move to Colombia. It's a lot to travel to Colombia right now. Although I love that place and I have friends there, we could get them going just as at the drop of a hat, really. But it's a lot more expensive and more of a headache to get from Arizona to Colombia than it was from Florida to Colombia, like a 2-hour flight. So it's the time now where I'm shifting, and I'm still wanting to create these transformational spaces, and just shifting gears a bit. So I think channeling the energy, telling people what I'm doing, trusting that the steps are going to appear as I take action upon them, getting the right people involved. And the next thing I knew, like, I was sitting on top of this town called Guatape, about 2 hours outside Medellin. 2 or 3 years before, I was up there by myself, and now this time in September of last year was the last retreat. We were in Guatape, and there was like 10 or 11 other people there from all over the world. Some people I knew, some people I didn't know, all there for this. And it was the time when I felt so on purpose and so alive and so connected to what I was supposed to do here. And it was so beautiful. So just having faith, taking action, having faith, making some friends along the way. And I don't know, I think that's just all we're here to do.
Yeah, and those feelings, like the wave, they come and go, as part of the ups and downs, but it always shows you like a deja vu that you're on the right track, and I totally understand the not traveling with the restrictions, even though it is very much, a different kind of fear than maybe saying that Colombia is a bad place, Scarface, Pablo Escobar, blah, 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 But, I remember I cried and cried and cried when I saw those green mountains. I was like, I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to do, and I don't care what happens, you know. And I think that that's what's happening in the world right now, is telling us that we can create that where we're at now. You know, where I question, like, why Canada? Why was I born in Canada? Like, I sat with that for so long, because I, you know, even though I love certain aspects of it, and I do see that I was, you know, I struggled with it for a long time. But I see now it's because I'm one of many that are called to do similar to what you're doing, you know, just creating that space for others. You know, I'm different than you in that I'm going and collaborating with other people in that space, and you're taking this on your own with some close friends, you know. So I see where it is that you're going with it, and I think that it's so needed today, Jesse, and that, you know, for you to be the type of guy that likes to travel and to be able to say, I'm making a homestead now, that's saying a lot about your character and this transition that you're on, because the medicine's needed here. You know, there they already have it. Here is where the people are, and you're going to help a lot more people get access to it just by, like, blooming where you were planted. What just came to me was, like, Dolly Parton of her song called Wildflowers, and that's, like, essentially, like, you leave the garden, you go. And I always resonated with that song, but now I'm seeing, like, you know, almost like a dandelion. Now you've landed where you're meant to grow yourself and expand, and yeah, it's wonderful to see. I know you're going to do great. You know, it seems like a lot of the experiences you've had are to help you in this moment do what you're meant to do. It was all training for this, you know, for being a parent, for building a homestead, for making your own space and doing it, you know, maybe in your way, but also with this collective experience that you've had with many different people on many different levels, and also many different medicines and teachers along the way too.
Absolutely. That's true. I think maybe I'll have to look up that song. Maybe Dolly Parton will be my new theme song, so it'll get me hyped up every morning.
My son cries when he hears it. It's not that hype of a song. Because she's a sad country singer, but she's great. Like, you know, she's got her place in the world, and she's done great things too. You know, especially when you're looking at to get into more of that creative flow, she's definitely a good inspiration for that. But yeah, my son hears it. I love it. I personally love it. But when I play it, he just bawls because of just the energy. He's not listening to the words. He can't grasp it the same way, but the sound of her voice makes him cry.
Ouch. Okay. Well, yeah. I'll consider it. I'll consider making the Dolly Parton song my theme song. No guarantees.
But you just gotta hear it. Maybe not a theme song. Maybe not a hype up song. For that, you can have The Last Mohawken or something.
There we go. I like that. It sounds better anyways.
So what do you think, or I guess I was going to say, what do you think about the breath course that you did, the somatic breath work? But I'm actually, before I ask you more about that, I'm curious how you got into that. You know, what called you to that training?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been interesting. A lot of people have asked me that at the training, of course. And it was interesting because I have like a lot of different reasons, but I didn't really synthesize them. I was just like, I'm here. It was, and the timing, really the reason was the timing was perfect. I just moved back literally the week before we moved back to Arizona. And then there was, they happened to be here in Phoenix like 5 days later. So like 3 days before the training, I signed up and I went. But I've been feeling the call to do the breath work because a number of reasons. But from my own experience, I had a couple really powerful like holotropic sort of breathwork sessions. I really felt this sort of shift in energy. I felt this like almost sort of transcendental experience where I transcended my body and my mind. And it wasn't as powerful as like a Bufo experience, but it was also like very it was very pure. It's just my breath. It's just me. So that was beautiful. But the one thing that really helped me was there's this book that someone introduced to me. I was talking to him because the idea of breathwork training was on my mind for a few years, because it's something you can do at retreats and host people and do these experiences. And that's what I had been really feeling called to, is creating these experiences for people. But I read this book called The Presence Process. And essentially what it is 15 minutes twice daily of breathing, consciously connected breathing. So you sit with yourself, you process emotions, you get rid of the fear, anger, grief, and sadness, and you just sit with it. And I had a really profound shift over the course of those 12 weeks. I think it's 10 or 12 weeks. I did that twice. So I spent like 6 months pretty much every day, twice daily breathing. And I just really felt the power behind this. It's such a simple practice that everyone can do. And it's something they can't take away from us. So I really love that about it. But as I was thinking about why, when people are asking me why, one thing that kept coming up that I never really shared was when I was a firefighter, and just so people know, maybe you know firefighters, maybe you don't, but for those of you who don't, like for me, my experience, and really countrywide, the average 3% of calls are fires. 3% of calls are fires, right? So that means 97% are other stuff. And the bulk of the other stuff is medical calls. In my personal experience, the bulk of those medical calls, so 80 to 90% of the calls were mental health in nature, ranging from drunks and addicts in the streets to suicides and overdoses in people's homes. So that was that. And I won't go too far in that rabbit hole. That was part of why I was really upset with this cog in the system sort of experience, because we weren't really helping people in that way that needed help. But the hardest part for me, not seeing like dead bodies or mangled bodies and these sort of things, because there's a big chunk of those calls, like say 10%, that are life and death true calls, whether they be motor vehicle accidents, rollovers, T-bones, like those sort of things, or it's cardiac events. But there was this time when I, back-to-back 3 days, there was this weird thing where on calls, there seems to be this flow where you get the same calls back-to-back in a day or whatever. And it's interesting how that goes. But the hardest part for me was like not seeing the death and the destruction, but seeing the aftermath of that. Seeing the people who walked in on their brother who had committed suicide, and he's there, and then she has that trauma. Or there was a time when that flow of like each call or each day back to back, there's young fathers, probably 30 to 35 years old, who died. One died of asthma, one died of maybe it was a heart attack. But there was this moment where this young family, and it really stuck with me, because this dad was a little overweight, but nothing too crazy. He just passed out one day and never woke up. Essentially, he had a heart attack or whatever. I don't know exactly what was going on, but he died. And we spent some time there with the family. We went there with the little boy. The young boy had just woken up. He had a baby, like a 1-year-old, let's say, and then probably like a 4 or 5-year-old. And I was in there with the 4 or 5-year-old, and he was showing us his fire truck and all his toys. And he was like, "Well, can I go out and see your fire truck?" So we went outside to our fire truck, and he sat in there, and he was talking about how cool it was. And he was saying how he couldn't wait to tell his dad. And he pointed over to his dad's truck, which was in the driveway. And he talked about, he couldn't wait to tell him on the way to school about his time in the fire truck. And so there's these experiences like that just kind of, there's not much we can do. And also my experience is that our system, our mental health system, is not set up to really serve people in actually healing and moving beyond these traumatic experiences. But there's other things that I've come into contact with, like psychedelics that are available. But all of my experiences, I'm not here to be a shaman. The shamans we work with have been doing this medicine work for their entire life, essentially. Since they were like Taita Giovanni, he's, I think, in his 55. He had been drinking ayahuasca or yahe in the jungle of Colombia for 35 plus years, or he started 35 years ago. So this is like a path So I'm trying to find my path too. And there's something about breath that can't be taken away from us. It can't be regulated. You can't tell me how I can breathe or what rate I can breathe, although they're probably trying to find a way to do that. But that is one thing. The fact that it can have these profound experiences, it can provide healing is another thing. And the fact that it can be done in community. I think where humans are meant to heal in community. And that's where we are mirrors for each other. That's where we really actually can be if we can be with other people and heal in this way and bring people together from all over the world, and we just sit in this room and we breathe deeply and see what the fuck happens. And what happens is a transformation, a connection to our authentic power, or a resolution of trauma or past life. Like, it was just so beautiful to be at this training where all these people came from all over and we all had such powerful experiences. And that's why I wanted to do this. Although I didn't know it, my life experiences have pushed me on this path to become certified in breathwork, because I know the power behind this. I know right now in the world, we need to heal. We need to shed these layers that have been holding us back, this trauma, this pain, this propaganda, and we need to reconnect with the truth about who we are and why we're here. And just one of the most purest forms of that is through our very own breath. And that's why. So I'm really excited to be hosting these experiences or doing one-on-one sessions with people. It's beautiful because you do it virtually. There's not a whole lot of prep. Just don't eat too much beforehand. Have a little conversation with me and we can step into this container and just see what happens. And there's no risks as far as sometimes things like stuff with psychedelics, like bad trips, like that's a whole conversation by itself. But there's something beautiful about breath because it's so innocent, it's so pure, it's so natural. And I feel like the time right now is for us to come back to what is natural, to what is true, what is real, to find it within ourselves. And I think the best place to start is through our breath.
Thank you, Jesse. It's so powerful. I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to play our sponsors, take a minute to digest everything, because it's a lot here. You're just touching on so many important things, and I'd love to talk more about this, so I'll just cut to the sponsors and we'll come right back and pick up, okay? Thank you.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go. Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Jesse.
So we were just talking on some really deep and real subjects here, you know, coming back to the basics with our breath, and also what's really going on here with mental health and stuff too. You know, these are big problems, and they're becoming even more, I guess, openly discussed. You know, some of it's propagandized. You know, well, there's TV shows literally made with characters with these problems, and in some ways it's being normalized. But, you know, suicide is a real big thing. Drug overdose is a real big thing. And I don't think a lot of people know that that's the biggest part of a first responder's job. You know, as Jesse was saying, this is like 80-90% of calls are being first responder. And sometimes this may be an accident, but most of the time this is mental health related. And so if you're somebody who's suffering with mental health, just know that, you know, you're not alone in this. There's chances are your neighbor or your friend, or, you know, there's somebody you can talk to about this that either has gone through it already or that is going through it too. And, you know, there is something really special about healing together as a community. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to anybody in your family, I don't blame you. You know, I was one of those people. I'm like, this is not something I talk to my family about. But I did find the right people at the right time. You know, it's just setting that intention and making that decision that I'm going to talk about this. And, you know, I know I told you this before, Jesse, but I had a client a while back, a couple of years ago now, that's very similar to you. He worked in service and then went to become a firefighter. And it was his time as a firefighter that he was exposed to street drugs. It wasn't necessarily when he was in service. Unlike my experience when I lived on base and stuff, it's like there was a lot of drugs there. You know, but his experience wasn't like that. He was, like, you know, more of a good boy at that time. It was, you know, integrating those experiences, which were really hard because he did a few tours and he saw a lot of stuff. And then he still wanted to serve, and he went and he became a firefighter. And it was in those moments of the integration and in seeing just that, like, I mean, I don't for sure know where his mind was at. You know, I sat with him every single week, but what he told me as truth and what was really true for him may still be two different things. But essentially, when you're looking at the world in that way and seeing, oh man, I just did all of this and people at home are still this messed up. It's like, you know, he turned to the drugs, and you know, they weren't like psychedelics. He was open to it, but it didn't give him what he needed at the time. You know, so he wanted the escape. He didn't want to face it. And then I ended up losing him. It took me a long time before I started even taking clients again. You know, there was a lot of lessons in that I had to learn, and I will forever remember him because of that. You know, there's just, so much. And this was one of the things too, is that in these in these jobs and in these positions, you're exposed to a lot of stuff. You know, you're meeting so many different types of people. You're put in a lot of different situations. Like, were you talking about this boy? It's like, what do you do in that moment? You know, you don't tell a 4-year-old the truth. Like, you're not going to see your dad again. That's not your position or your job, but you're forever going to remember that boy had that. That's the only thing that was in his mind, is just the excitement to talk to his dad, and you knowing the truth. You know, these are the types of things that shape a person. You know, and you don't have a lot of control in those moments. And maybe life would be easier if we could control everything, but often it's that type of control that even gets us into situations, is wanting that type of control. So I think you've done really good in your life with surrendering and holding faith in your heart. And, you know, with that, you know, every experience that you're going through, you're finding more tools to not only help yourself, but to help other people, help the collective. You know, it says a lot about the type of character that you are. And, this is something that comes up in the history books a lot. If you're reading anything, I really love digging into the history books, not exactly the history textbooks, but, writings from people in history who've been through things like the Great Depression or went through, the Gulag Archipelago and stuff like that. And one of them that really hit me was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And that entire book is don't read it before bed, let me just tell you that, because your dreams will be crazy, but definitely do read it, because it's a very important book, especially with what we're going through today. And that's his biggest message, was that no matter what you lose, don't lose your attitude. Your attitude is everything. Your attitude is the thing that you can that is yours, that nobody can take away. And you can reading back over The Dark Night of the Soul, a lot of the people that is brought up by that author as well is it's the attitude. And what you're saying here is like, it doesn't matter, nobody's going to take the breath away. Your breath is yours. Dr. Seuss had it in his mind that maybe they were going to much like water bottles, make us have to like breathe out of a bag or something, or have oxygen but that hasn't happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But this breath, this life force energy inside of us, it is something that we can control. It is something that we can be conscious with. It is a gift that we are born with that can never be taken away. And as long as we can harness that, I guess it does in that time of death, maybe. I don't know. I haven't died yet. But, as far as I know, that, as long as we're living in this world, in this realm, we have total control over that. And there's a lot of bonuses and benefits that come with that. We can go, maybe 40 days minimum without food. Many people have done that. We know that that's possible. Some people have gone hundreds. Some people have gone years, maybe monitoring, maybe having some vitamins or some juices. Water, we can go a few days. Breath, a few seconds, a few minutes. This is really important, basic stuff, and you're tapped right into it here. And some of the other benefits, other than, just whole body healing and health and, refreshing that mind with pure oxygen, is that there's also this DMT release. It can come in the form of, in our dream time, but it also comes from our lungs when we're breathing really deep breaths. If anybody ever wants to try, some of the Wim Hof breathing, or even Kundalini yoga, which is where I found it for myself, was like, oh my God, I'm high right now. I've gotten to those points in yoga, and it's like, it's crazy. It's crazier than anything. Like, even like feeling like dizzy, like, oh my God, what's going on here? But over time, those chemicals change and you adapt. But the first couple times it can be scary. And I just want to hear more about that. I don't know if there's anything from what I've shared here that you want to dive into. But I'd really just love to hear from you on this subject, all of it, really, Jesse. Let's go pass it over.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. You get it. You take it.
I got emotional. My nose,
sure.
That tears come.
Oh my God, me too. Just kidding. No, for real. No, first I want to just say, like, with the client, that you had that sounded like he committed suicide. Yeah. Or overdose, maybe.
They didn't say it that way. They said it was a seizure, but we know what the seizure was caused from. We know why that happened, and he deadbolted himself into his house. He didn't want anybody to find him. Not until after. So, yeah. But they do thankfully share the story in a kinder way than I am today. Because of the service that he had. They make it kind. But they don't want the truth out there. It's the truth that's going to free other people in that circumstance. And that's why I'm sharing it. But
well, I just want to acknowledge that you went through that, and whatever the reason was, but maybe to share his story in the way that he couldn't. But it's interesting, we step into this sort of into the arena like this. That's the the game, the risk we play, but it's what's the risk? We risk that, but if we choose not to step into the arena, we risk everything. We risk never having anything. And I think it's better to step in and risk losing than it is to never not have like this. But yeah, you brought up a lot around suicide. It made me think about, suicide, other than my personal experience. I was suicidal in 7th grade, and then my own suicidal thoughts came back when they really kicked me out of it. Because once I went there and I was there and I knew what that was like, I was like, I can't go back there. So that's what really catapulted me forward. So it's much other voices there, and it can either move you forward or back. But my experience with suicide as a firefighter was, interesting to, be there as a first responder and see the aftermath is one thing. But I've lost a lot of brothers of mine to suicide from the Marines. I need 2 hands at least to count, all the men that I served with that are no longer here because they chose to take their own life. I lost my best friend to a heroin overdose. That was one thing that really fueled me for a while there. And it's just really unfortunate, but I do think you're onto something, and I like the idea of sharing the truth about it, because I think that it's not a fully articulated idea yet for me, but there's something about like native indigenous rights. They have ceremonies for everything, ceremonies for birth and for life and celebrations and death, of course. And this transition, it's just we're here and our body is existing now, but it's not going to be here forever, and we'll continue to move on beyond that. At least that's what I believe. But I do think that the next thing you talked about was our breath. And when you were sharing, what I thought about, is our breath is the first thing we breathe in when we step into this. Not step into. I mean, maybe some babies step into it. Maybe Elliott, my daughter, will step into this world like, hey, bitches, I'm here. But it's the first. It's the first thing we do when we come through that portal is breathe in. It's the last thing we do when we leave. And I think there's really something special about that. And I think there's really something that's real about that. And also, like, I think it's beautiful that we have that. And also, everyone has to find their own path. Everyone has to find their own path to healing. And I think this is where our society is really missing the mark. Western society is missing the mark in that instead of normalizing, like we live, the quote just jumped to me was, it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And I believe, from my experience, our society is deeply troubled beyond repair. And while, kids are committing suicide, overdoses, families are torn apart, then we got this freaking whole transhumanism movement and what they're doing to the kids with the sex changes and that kind of stuff that's a whole nother level of evil. But back to what we have control over, it's like we just got to find a way to put ourselves out there and normalize that life is very hard right now. And also, there are ways to overcome no matter what we've been through, no matter what we are going through now, no matter how dark it may seem. There are people who are there, whose life purpose is to serve, and they want to support you in finding your own and transmuting the pain that you've experienced to be of service to other people in the only way that you can.
Because this is how the change is going to happen. This is how it happens. It's like, turn your pain into powerful service towards others. That's really it. I think that's even why it is that we feel that pain. And we're told, there's Band-Aids for every pain that you have in this culture. But it's not those Band-Aids that actually help. It's not those Band-Aids that get to the root of anything. In order to do that, it's to go through the motion, feel the pain, transmute it into something. And, if you want to be a part of the ripple effect, you're going to do it in a way that serves somebody else, because that's where the real healing does come from. That is the next level. I'm sorry to interrupt, Jesse, but you're just so on to so many things.
No, well, that's exactly right. That's the thing. That's where we miss the mark. Well, we miss the mark on a lot of areas, but the feeling part is what's key. And, you know, for a man to feel is really controversial maybe. But ultimately, when we feel the things that need to be felt and we don't suppress them, because suppression leads to depression and illness and disease, then we can be free from our past and step into what I call heart-centered living. Well, I want to be here now in this, awake and alive, connected to our hearts, and live from that space and handle the problems, all the stuff that's going on in the world, handle it from that space as opposed to trauma, you know, weight, past programming affecting us here today. We can't think clearly. We don't know who we are because we're not willing to step into that. And I think that the thing with suicide and overdoses and these sort of things, and also while men and women, I'm sure, don't ask for help, is because our culture and religious institutions that have conditioned people to feel shame and guilt, make you feel bad about who you are. That was my experience, actually. When my mom was a single mom. She had 4 kids. She got a divorce from my dad when I was 7. She was a nurse at the time. And because she had 4 kids, she opened up a childcare. I mentioned that. So, because childcare is crazy expensive and 4 kids wasn't happening, plus long days and stuff like that. She was an oncology nurse. And she then eventually opened the childcare up. And about a year after that, my older brother got diagnosed with cancer. So she went through a major painful transition. But that time, there's a lot going on. My older brother, who was the same brother who passed away in 2019. He had cancer for 22 years. It was just sort of like constant roller coaster if he was getting better or not, if he was going to die. And then eventually it was time to come home from my travel, and he passed. But what I was going to say with that is all of that experience was going on. I wasn't getting the attention that I needed. I felt very unloved. I felt like, really looking back, like my mom, unable to really process all the pain she was experiencing, from the divorce to the financial stress that we were experiencing, to my brother. I felt very unloved. I felt like I was sort of like the target, that I was responsible for all my mom's pain. And so one day after, you know, this fight with my mom, I went upstairs with a butcher knife and dug it into my wrists and just wished I was dead. And I was trying to kill myself. And it was interesting because I had this then moment where I thought about my mom coming upstairs and seeing me, and how devastating that would be for her. And it just shifted in me just enough to like put it down and kind of and move beyond that. Yeah, I mean, essentially what I'm trying to say, I'm kind of losing myself in the story a little bit. I felt so unloved. I felt so like responsible. I felt guilty is what I'm trying to get out here. I felt really guilty for all the pain that was going on in my family. And that's what drove me to that behavior. And I got out of it. And it was actually, that was the summer before 7th grade. And then in 7th grade, I was in 7th grade on 9/11. And because of that event, it pulled me out of myself for the first time when I saw the people in New York City, the firefighters run up with a complete disregard for their own life safety to help complete strangers. I saw the Marines going overseas to fight what we thought was the enemy in that case. But either way, that's why I wanted to be a Marine, a firefighter. So going around now with my journey and the experiences that I've had, it's really shown me like the underlying thread of shame and guilt that leads people to those decisions from my direct experience. And a lot of these people like that I saw had committed suicide and stuff, like a lot of times it's a divorce that pulls the trigger. There's something here around shame or guilt that needs to be healed, because like we deserve to, as human beings, to feel good. We deserve to, we're here to contribute. I believe all of us have a purpose here. And I think some people have a purpose, and it's to take their own life so other people can learn and wake up because it's traumatic. But ultimately, we don't have to go down that path. And I think by normalizing these conversations around these sort of things, by men especially stepping up into the arena and processing their feelings, doesn't have to be some grandiose way. You can just do a breathwork session with somebody on Zoom. It's not a huge deal. Or you can go into the community and heal. Or you can go on an ayahuasca journey or mushrooms or whatever it is. Like there's so many tools out there. I think what people just need to, that are really feeling that shame, that guilt, which is what it is. I think if you're having those thoughts, your soul's trying to leave, you're feeling guilty, you're embarrassed, you're ashamed of who you are. It's because you haven't really connected with the truth. And I think there's just so many opportunities for us to step into this arena and connect with the truth about who we are, why we're here, to overcome this healing, to overcome our pain from our past, to truly heal at a deep level, and stop wasting our time with pharmaceutical medications that just treat the symptoms instead of the root cause of illness and disease.
And sometimes they bring up more symptoms too. Like one of the main side effects is you may have suicide ideation. You know, I don't know if you have been exposed to this yet, Jesse, but you know, if it's here in Canada, it may be coming to you next. And that's our premier now is making assisted suicide so available. So if a veteran, for example, finishes their tour and they're having a hard time with the integration, it's not, oh, go to Veterans Affairs. Not that that's that helpful anyway. It's not it's what they're doing now is, it used to be weed too. You can go get weed. Now they want to make the medical weed not legal, not free anymore. They're changing those rules up too. So you'll actually, now they have to pay for it. And there's dispensaries everywhere, a lot of accessibility. But the thing is that this assisted suicide, it's like, this is your option. You're having a hard time. Here, why don't you kill yourself? And not only that, but it can be verbal consent. So somebody can be in a really hard situation and it's verbal consent. It doesn't even need to be written down. And also there used to be a 10-day wait period, so you could change your mind. Now they've taken that away. So it's like, you can just be having a bad day, say you want this, and they're like, okay, here you go. But you know, if you can step outside of yourself for a minute and see the big picture, like what you're saying, get over the shame, get over the guilt, get over yourself. And, you know, this type of masochism, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but, you know, like that self-harm, like you get out of that trying to hurt yourself, you know, because of this guilt and shame, you can see that whatever it is that you're going through, there's somebody else going through it that could use your help, you know, and that's so important. Like, I get the assisted suicide maybe in some ways, but I also have this even stronger belief inside of me that says if you're here, it's for a reason, you know. But I understand if someone's in like crazy pain from cancer and, you know, or an accident and on life support, I understand maybe in those circumstances, possibly, you know, because I haven't been there, but I'll be open to it. But for the majority of people that are going through this right now, and the percentage of people who've already done it, like, you know, maybe it's a type of soul harvesting or something. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think that it's right or just. And I feel that people are here for a reason, and that this pain, whatever pain somebody's feeling, there's a purpose behind it. And if you can tap into that, you know, you'll find your own purpose as human being, you know, that dharma, that real reason why you're here. You know, these contemplations, you know, they're worth happening. You know, this is why when doing like the dark night of the soul work, it's like, I'll go to the depths. I'll go as dark as it can be. You know, if I'm feeling really bad, I'm going to put on like really bad music. Like, you know, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it so hard so that everything else gets better from there. Because once it's out and once I've faced it and once I've asked the questions, you know, the only way to go is back up. You know, rock bottom, you know, you don't have to stay there. You know, it's all right to visit. This is why I like the Hecate, or some people call her Hecate, or Hecate, or Hecate. I don't know. There's few words for this triple moon goddess, but essentially she holds the keys to the underworld, so she can come and go as she pleases. And this is like, I think why it is that I'm being called to her, is like that moving in and out. It's okay to reach those depths because there's something in there. You know, there's always a lesson. But it's also good to have the key to be able to get out. Or in my case, how I feel where my purpose is holding that door open for other people who are having the hard time, so that they can then come back to this world and have true purpose. You know, because we need more people. We do. You know, this is right now, it's like this population control. There's too many people here. Like, I hear that all the time. Oh, well, the population's too big. It's like, we need people. This is our army, you know. This is us against whatever else is going on, which is the lies. It's truth against lies. I'm going way off board and taking up our time. I'm sorry, Jesse.
No worries. I'm right there with you.
Oh, it's a crazy time.
Yeah, it's easy to go on those. But one thing you said that really stood out. I mean, I agree with you for sure. The assisted suicide thing is unbelievable. I think we're dealing with an anti-human, force trying to take us away, trying to take our kids. Essentially is what this is to me. But one thing you thought made me think about my brother, and I'm going to talk about him much. So I'd like to share a bit more about him. He was a standout baseball player, really amazing pitcher, but he ended up getting cancer when he was 14 years old, 6 years older than me. So, it's really interesting, like him coming home from his first surgery. He had essentially cancer throughout his stomach and his intestines, I think, at first when it started. Unknowing what it was, to me, it's very clear, even from a young age, it's like, not like years ago, I've known, even though doctors were dumbfounded, that it was just a physical manifestation of the emotional trauma that he sustained in his youth. But he went through, what I was going to say is he was interesting when he came home after his first surgery, and he was just moaning in pain in his sleep, and just such deep pain right from the beginning, totally ripped out from his youth. And cancer was on and off for a while. It came back when he was 18. I remember my mom told me he had a 5% chance of surviving. He had pancreatic cancer, and most people that get pancreatic cancer don't live more than 6 months. But he continued pushing forward. And why I wanted to share a bit about him is because he lived with unbelievable amounts of pain every day. The cancer when he was 18, I think it left and it came back. Like when he was 26 or 28, so it took a little bit of remission, but it came back in full force, and it was up and down in his lymph nodes, and he eventually over time got tumors on his spine, on his diaphragm, his liver. Like he just had like tumors everywhere, and he was always in so much pain. It was ridiculous. I think he told me at one time, like years before he died, so he was on this for a while, and it probably intensified, but he was taking like 30 hydrocodone a day to control the pain. And that's enough to probably kill you and I both if we took that much right now. But he was just normalized. He was working. But what I want to share about him is he lived for 22 years with cancer, extreme amounts of pain. There's one time he came down to visit me in this house, actually, I'm living in now. I'm actually living in the same house now that I lived in before I went and traveled 4.5 years ago. So it's really crazy full circle. Yeah. But he laid on the couch right out there, different couch, but he laid out on the couch out there. And he had an ice pack on his liver and a heating pad on his back because he was in so much pain. He when I talked to him, he was, he talked like this because he was in so much pain, and so it hurt to express too much air. But what kept him alive for all that time, when he could have died, 14 years before or whatever, is service. Although going through all this, he was a standout sales director for his company. He traveled all over the States, and it was like a top tier salesperson for his company. He was just so involved in his community, but really did it for him, I believe. He was a mentor for a kid with developmental disabilities. Despite all his pain, he would still get up and serve. He volunteered for the Special Olympics because he believed that the kids at the Special Olympics were less fortunate than him. And he found purpose in serving them. And after connecting with some of his coworkers who, fortunately, like his company, like orchestrated these events where he could go volunteer and stuff. So it was great for him to be part of that. And I believe it's why he lived for so long, in fact, because he was able to get out of his house. And the letters from one of his colleagues out in my mind is just when Josh, on days we didn't think he could get out of bed and take care of himself, he showed up, he smiled, and he served. And that became his mission in life. So despite all the physical pain he was going through, and this was unbelievable amounts of pain that I can't even fathom for 2+ decades, he still found the people who he believed were less fortunate than him, and he got his ass out of bed, and he showed up, and he served. And so, yeah, I think there's something in that.
And
whether we have
sorry, go on, Jesse.
whether we have cancer now, or just some self-limiting beliefs or serious trauma that we've experienced, there is someone out there that can benefit from our service. And so this is where it takes us to get up out of ourselves and go out in the community, into the arena, get the help we need. Sure, of course, absolutely. Healing's a lifelong journey. And also figure out how our life experiences, the things we've been through, can help other people.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. When you're sharing that, I was, the last bit anyway, I was reminded of something that a mentor said to me, Xander Fryer. His best friend had committed suicide, and he was having a hard time getting out of bed. So he wrote out a business plan, and that business plan was just a simple statement saying what his mission was, and he would read it every single day. And the end of that statement I'll share with you here, and that's, it's not about me. It never was, and it never will be. And so when I make my own statements and missions and things, that's a lot of the time how I end it, because it makes it, instead of it being about me and my reason, it switches from me to we, which is very much like what yoga's about, and many other modalities, are sharing a lot of the same things. So just that statement, it's not about me, it never was, it never will be. It changes everything. It changes the perspective. It gives the purpose in itself. And it sounds like that's a lot of what your brother was doing too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today. I think we just have a couple minutes left here on the clock. So I was just going to open it up to you so you can let everybody know how it is that they can get a hold of you if they want to talk, or, are interested in contributing to anything that you're working on, or, just how can they find you? That's the best way.
Yeah, of course. The best way is to connect with me on Instagram at action_Jesse, and send me a message if you listen to this podcast. Tell me what resonated, or just follow me. I love connecting with people from all over the world. I think technology is a dangerous weapon right now in some ways. It's hurting people, but also it's a great tool to connect us.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need right now is connection and healing and celebration of life and coming together in this way. So in anything that you want to do with me, connect me with on Instagram, action_Jesse. I'm hosting my one-on-one breathwork sessions. Can do that virtually or in person. I'm in Phoenix, but virtually is a possibility too. If you're so interested in that, there's a link in my bio. You can sign up for that. I'm happy to talk a bit more about somatic breath and that, and share a bit more about it. But it's a transformative experience. It allows us to actually apply what I'm talking about here into our real life and embody and integrate these experiences, because breath can't be taken away, and it's what brings us life. It's our life force. So why not take some time to connect with that? So I encourage anyone who's experiencing anything, whether you're dealing with the dark shame, guilt, or you're focused on growth and performance and moving forward, like the breath is here and it's going to support you on that path. So I'd love to be support you all in that way as well.
Thanks so much. It's great. Yeah, we've talked about a lot of dark things here, but yeah, even if it's productivity and you're the light right now, this is still a helpful tool. So thank you so much, Jesse. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Soon.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye, and congratulations.
Bye. Thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, bye.
I just kind of figured it out for myself. What happened with me is when I was going through my divorce, somebody did some holotropic breathwork with me, and then taught me some Bastrika, which he called emergency breathwork. If you don't have any time and you've got a short amount of time, it takes about 5 minutes. It's the most powerful thing. He got it from the Yoga Sutras, and so I'll show you that afterwards. But from there, I just learned a little bit of Breath of Fire, a little bit of Wim Hof, and then just did it. I figured, shit, it works.
Yeah.
So
it's not that complicated.
Let me do it.
Yeah.
How about doing it? That's my practice. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to give it some kind of nomenclature or something. Right. You can call it pranayama, you can call it Wim Hof, or you can call it shit on a stick. I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I agree.
So I like to do, we'll do 30 rounds, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The exhale is pretty easy. It kind of does it by itself. You kind of just let go. I like to get my spine into it a little bit. And so a good inhale in through the nose, and then just let it go out through the mouth. And so we'll do an exhale retention. I learned this from Crone Gracie and his dad, Hickson Gracie. They like to get all the gas out, so gas gets trapped in there, stale air. So you'd be surprised at how much you can keep blowing, and then hold that. You got about 15 to 20 seconds on that. I like to throw in the Taoist tummy massage, because that, you got the vagus nerve coming down through the heart into the gut, and our emotions get trapped in there. The second and third chakra, our power and our sacral chakra. So you can just get in with the nerve endings, and I recommend, going very gentle, because there's a lot of nerve endings there, and there's a lot of tissue and organs. So just, all you really have to do, if you haven't done it before, it gets pretty sore pretty easily, pretty quick. So just touch it in there. You can go around the belly button or in the four corners. Pancreas, spleen, liver, underneath the ribs. And then you've got descending choline on the left side, ascending choline on the right side. Vagus nerve that comes through the heart, through all these nerve endings into your internal organs, and goes around the belly button. For extra, wait till the gag reflex happens, then take that in and hold that for as long as you can. So exhale retention, inhale retention. And we'll do about 30 rounds, 30 breaths, and I'll call it. All right? You ready?
All right, can I watch you first?
Sure.
Let me just do a couple so I can see what you're doing, then
Okay.
I'll follow you. So when you say retention, you're not holding it at all?
Yeah, I'll call the retention.
Oh.
After 30 breaths, I'll say, okay, exhale everything out now. Hold, and then wait till the reflex. Hold.
Got it.
And when you hold the inhale, you get a lot of compression in your shoulders and stuff. I like to use that to stretch out my lats and the bottom of the ribs. Yeah, exactly. You can use that compression to stretch out the neck.
That's what shoes also called? So, yeah, so I can sit a little bit higher.
Okay, so here we go. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Here we go. Out all the way. Empty the lungs. Hold. Inhale, hold. In through the nose, out through the nose. Come back to center. Round one. Good work. Good work. Yeah. Right. Change it up a little bit. We're going to do, this time we're going to do a breath of fire. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. What I like to do is to turn the The neck gets into the eustachian tubes. Oftentimes we get clogged sinuses from pollution and just buildup in the system. So this opens up all the lymph channels, the lymph nodes, and the Yoga Sutras talk about the nadis, which are the small chakras all over our body, the energy centers all over our body, and we have a lot of them in our face. So you can do the Louis Armstrong trumpet if you need to open them up a little bit more. Open up the nose channels a little bit more. Blow whatever hockey snot you got to get out there. Just get all that stuff out. And so turning the neck from side to side opens up the eustachian tubes. In through the nose. So we're going to do in through the nose, out through the nose, about 30 to 50 breaths. And then again with the exhale retention and then the inhale retention.
So you moving side to side, or you're doing them all in one direction and then
like that. You'll feel into it. Okay. So just open up those channels in the face. All right, here we go. Breath of fire. All the way out. Hold. Inhale, hold. Back to center. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. So we're gonna do one breath out, lion's breath out with the tongue. Again, getting all that stale air out. So emptying. And then come up, and we're gonna do strong breaths in through the nose. Even if you got snot or stagnation or deviated septum, just breathe through it, breathe through it. And so your diaphragm's open, your shoulders are dropped, then you're going to hold it on the 21st breath. So we're gonna do about 20 breaths and then hold it on the 20th breath. Be careful with the compression and how much you hold it, because the DMT, you can squeeze the perineum, the taint, squeeze the perineum, and that'll bring the kundalini up into your third eye, and it can activate the DMT. So watch it. Watch the compression. Because people at home might, you don't want to pass out. So be gentle with yourself. So lion's breath out, 20 breaths. We'll hold it on the 21st. Squeeze the perineum underneath your in between your balls and your anus, and then drop the shoulders, open up the diaphragm, and just go into that meditative state. I'll do one round. Okay. I almost went on that one. You got to be careful. Mm-hmm. So just be careful with the compression. Mm-hmm. And so you got that lion's breath out, and then we'll do
2 lion breath, and then
one lion breath.
And then you had it with the breath in that time?
Yeah, hold the breath in. It's an inhale retention.
Got it.
Right, lion's breath out, 20 breaths, hold on the 21st, inhale retention. squeeze the perineum, and don't pass out.
All right. Got it.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Good, man. That's great.
Yeah, so that's Bastrika. That's emergency breath work. You got no time. Somebody's going into a panic attack, or you just do 3 rounds of that. That'll take you to where you want to be.
Thank you, Troy. You look like a white yogi with that beard and the brown skin, man. Yeah. Yeah.
The sun is good food.
Yeah.
As long as you got good food in you to protect you against the sun.
Amazing. Cool. I'll be doing this every day.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.